Hi guys, it's Jen and I am back at my new channel at Better by the Day 24, Jennifer Shadler. Please, if you're new here, welcome. If you checked out a few and you're interested in the topic, which is primarily psychiatric drugs, specifically SSRIs and more specifically benzodiazepine. That's the last part of my journey. Please do me a favor. I'm not looking to win a popularity contest or go viral, anything like that. If it happens, it happens. I just need about 80 more subscribers to be able to go live. Primarily because it's just a little less time consuming. I am devoted to this. I found Dr. Yosef on YouTube, Dr. Yosef Witt-Doring at Taper Clinic. The video that I just watched is linked down below on my playlist, 5 reasons against the psychiatric industry, the 5 biggest lies and scandals they've been entrenched in. And quite frankly, I might even have to take this video down. I do currently have a lawsuit about to be pending. They're about to be served. A place called Neuropsychiatric of Atlantis. That's what they were introduced to me as. Their online, their website is called the Neuropsychiatric Clinic. Dr. Randy Warner is the overseeing director, I guess you would call him. And really, to my horror, I didn't initially believe him, but they have opened, he doesn't work with patients anymore. He's just a consultant, and I think he just does all the admin and executive directing of the office. But he did open a new office, and I think it's Miami, Florida, I want to say, but it's in Florida. And when you go to the website that I just found it didn't pop up for a minute, you can read it and see that it is geared towards senior citizens, which is both frightening and concerning to me, because they're among the most vulnerable of people in the psychiatric industry. And a lot of them have probably been on a lot of psychiatric drugs for many years. And if they haven't been and they go to see this doctor, I promise you they're about to be. And to take that and combine it with being older and the natural changes that we go through in the aging process is even, to me, it's as equally horrific as it is medicating the many minors that they have medicated. You can go and look at the reviews, the Yelp reviews. I mean, straight across the board, it's been nothing but people's stories of tragedy after tragedy. And, you know, the reason I might have to take it down, look, I might tear up. Don't cry for me, Argentina. Let me tell you, I did last night. I just about cried myself to sleep, and let me tell you why that is a beautiful thing and how it got to that point. You know, you can look at some of my other videos for a little while and hear my story and how I got to where I am, which is I am at a tapering from 5 milligrams of Klonopin, generic name is clonazepam, and I'm down to 2. And I have now a rock-solid plan that normally, you know, you would think you could do with your psychiatrist or your medical provider. But the truth of the matter is they don't seem to know what they're doing. And we definitely know that they're lying. Check out the video on the playlist by Dr. Yosef. I'm trying to get the title of it. Oh, Don't Trust Your Psychiatrist, Here's Why, is the title of it. And he's a board-certified psychiatrist himself. And the nefarious truth about what they've been doing for years, starting with the FDA, who he also worked with for a period of time. Now, I don't have those kind of credentials. a patient who's really come out, I'm not a patient, I'm a human being, who's really come out on the other side of this. Let me tell you, you know, I did a video yesterday about, you know, withdrawing from benzodiazepine and how that's often misdiagnosed with another, to me, questionable label of ADD. So at one point, the last two providers that provided the benzodiazepine were also providing Concerta. Big no, 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 no. You know, especially if you're tapering. When you think about, you know, them, they're actually opposite classifications of drugs. One's a stimulant and one's an anti-anxiety kind of stress reliever thing. So what that must be doing to your brain chemistry, we're not even talking about the SSRIs. They've been gone for over a decade. But especially if you're tapering, you don't want stimulant medications. At one point, no, I'm not even going to go off track. I really want to stay with what brought me to tears last night, and why it's so important in that I haven't cried, and I don't know when the last time was. I knew obviously something was very wrong. I knew things were improving, but kind of that deadness inside obviously was still there. And, you know, some things that normally anybody would cry over, I had a hard time. I mean, my heart was breaking, you know. I was very, very close to my oldest brother, and he passed away in 2007 of multiple myeloma. And I remember at his funeral, my heart was just shattered. My oldest son just held onto my arm and did not let me go. And I couldn't really talk. I didn't display any emotion. Nary a tear fell from my eye. And a lot of situations where it would have been very appropriate, even healing and cleansing, to cry, I just haven't. And even on this tapering journey, I can see like skills and abilities coming back. And this is where I'm kind of nervous about the lawsuit. The lawsuit is, you know, they're going to do everything they can unsuccessfully to try to prove that there was no damage done. You know, and this final straw with them only took place on June 30th was my last encounter with them. But actually the damage had been done right at the beginning when they failed to call in a prescription, and for the first time in 7 years sent me off, and almost sent me off into a withdrawal. But I did have to go to the emergency room. You should never, ever have to do that because your provider failed to call in something as serious as a benzodiazepine. And then there was an abrupt cutoff. So the damage has already been done. If the lawyer says it's not a good idea to take this down, I will, because I am healing almost profoundly. And I don't want to get all Pollyanna emotional on this. What I haven't mentioned in a lot of my videos is that I am a woman of faith. I am a Christian, and the spiritual aspect of my life has always been the most important. And I've always known that all good things are coming from that. That's very simplistic to many of you. I realize that. This 12-step programs were based on a religious group called the Oxford Groups, and they don't really, God is mentioned. But, you know, this isn't about religion or politics or anything of that nature. It's not even about recovery from drug addiction. This is something totally different. This is an actual brain injury that was inflicted on me by being prescribed benzodiazepine for years and years and years and years. And in those years, my little boys grew up. And in those years, I always say, you know, really intelligent people will never say, you know, how smart they are. And I do find that to be true. But I knew I was. I'm not degreed. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a lawyer. But I was a bright kid and a very bright young woman. I obtain careers and professions that, primarily those positions were degreed, filled by degree people. And I did really well at them, on top of raising my first child until around 4 or 5, when the psychiatric merry-go-round began. But what happened last night is I went live on TikTok. I'm getting a lot of new followers, which is absolutely great. I'm trying to get everyone to kind of come over here so I can get subscribers to go live. And then again, I was getting all the questionable people on TikTok too. And I don't know too much about that platform. And, I knew I couldn't continue to try to answer everybody. So I wanted to do, on top of the video I did about often mistaking benzodiazepine withdrawal for ADD. And it's far too often. And they just love piling on the different diagnoses. So I kind of wanted to explain that, I wouldn't be talking to people off app or going to WhatsApp or to their Telegram sites. And I think some, may have been OnlyFans, very beautiful young women, but, not interested. And a lot of people that were doing, like offering readings and astrology readings and things like that. Number one, I'm a Christian, and we don't really believe in those things. And number two, they eventually, get off into going off platform. And I will never pay money for something that's offered on TikTok, unless, there's a product or something I wanted to buy or things of that nature. So trying to give an overall generic message, to everybody, to please come over here. And when I get to that 100, that's still a small enough number to be able to interact and respond to the comments. So please, while you're here, subscribe, little thumbs up. But right now my focus is getting, I think about 79, 80 more subscribers. But last night, I had worked all day yesterday, had a long day. And now, mind you, I haven't taken the Concerta or any stimulant medication since early June was the last prescription, and I never will have one filled again. I now have that in the category of SSRIs, which I haven't taken since 2006, and never will. And I come home from work a little later than usual, and my husband, God bless his heart, we were going to play a game of Trouble. I was live on TikTok, and I was kind of goofing around about what a sore loser is. But I could tell when I walked in, I said, man, I've been walking like 8 miles a day as part of my healing regimen. And it is very, very helpful. Aerobic, anything that gets that heart rate up, also gets those brain chemicals, the dopamine and endorphins and all that, the good stuff, going naturally. It is the most effective medicine I have ever taken in my life, getting in that level. And I actually would like to increase that for more steps. But I could tell something was bothering him about 5 minutes after I got in. And, we've been together 7 years, so I kind of get it. Guys go through their things and they go in to the man cave. And if you try to yank them out or nag him out of it, it usually backfires. So when I can see that he's there, I try to leave it alone. But this seemed, I could feel anger. I could feel actual anger. I came in and I went, wow, this is incredible. I don't believe it. Usually I come home, almost always, I had come home and barely been able to take the dog out for his last walk of the evening. Get the coffee ready for the next day, make sure he had his lunches, whatever had to be done, and then that's it. I was good with going to bed at 8 o'clock. Exhausted, he's usually content. He has to sleep setting up, so, he's in his corner, I'm in my corner. We're fine. We're happy. We have a conversation. We spend time together, and then that's it. But I came home last night and I had a lot of energy. I hadn't taken my walk in like 3 days. So I was trying to decide. This is like 8:30 going on 9. And I'm trying to decide if I want to, maybe do a few laps in the pool. I love a night swim or take a walk. And then I said, nah, you know what? I think I'll just get things done around here. And if he, and he wanted to play a board game together. And I'm like, that's awesome. And I had a few things I wanted to check out on YouTube and kind of prepare for something today. Well, that just went off the table. So he's just angry. I had started making oatmeal that we eat on the weekends, prior to working out or walking or whatever, the steel cut, or the long-term energy thing. And, after it went to boil, I put it on almost off because I didn't know how long I was going to, be doing the live. And he's just getting more and more angry. And I do the live. I said, give me a couple, 5 minutes. It was just a random number I threw out. It wound up, people jumped in. So it wound up being about 40 minutes. And he got up, he went to the bathroom. And by the time I was over, he just didn't want to play anymore. I could tell he was really, and I kept, the worst thing I think for me in this marriage I can do when I know he's in that mood or feeling that way is to keep asking him what's wrong, because he's going to say nothing. I'm fine. That's what he does. So, like I said, I usually just let him stay there. But I was disappointed because, I was in such a good mood and I was feeling so good, and it was so unusual to have any amount of energy to do anything after a full day like that. And he blew me off on the game. We kind of went our own ways. I could see he was pissed off. And we talked this morning, and he was pissed off. He thought I was, he doesn't even know the names of it. He goes, I thought you were on that Concerta stuff, meaning the Concerta, or that maybe I had taken something because I had the ability to function as a normal human being. I attributed it to, the bind definitely plays a role in it, and it had become a way of life. And the only reason I was ever medicated to begin with was things that just easily could have been sorted out, and some of it was sorted out in my 20s. Childhood trauma stuff. It was rough. It was kind of abandoned by my entire family at 13. Went through the whole system, just like 20 different programs and foster homes, and but I had really just gone through a lot of therapy and resolved that, and I had a really good life. When Dr. Yosef ever said 80% of the women that are on these psychiatric drugs started them somewhere in their 30s. I was about 36, and he said that they were either postpartum or going through a divorce. I kind of had both going on. So in other words, they medicated the hell into normal. I just wanted to see a therapist. That's all I wanted. It's all I needed. And I am getting a little choked up. I'm not going to force myself to cry, but I'm not going to hold it in either. And when my husband ever said that, I realized, wow, I am getting well. What's not normal is to put in a regular day. I'm 62 years old, but I'm in good shape. I take a lot of very, very high quality supplements that you can only get with a medical license because he has one. We also sell them if anybody's interested. I can give you the website for that. But and exercise. I was a heavy smoker. I come from a family of heavy smokers, and I put them down like 7 years ago, I think, 6 or 7 years ago. I do vape once in a while, and that'll eventually wean out. And the only medications that I take is tramadol, which is a whole nother, that's not in the psychiatric industry. That's another FDA bullshit thing that they put out in the 90s as a perfectly safe, not controlled, non-addictive, non-opiate drug. 8 tablets a day, take away all your pain, perfectly safe. I worked for doctors when that came out. I worked, it was a group of 20 different physicians and 20 different specialties. And the reps would just come by with boxes and boxes and boxes of them. We were always, the doctors always kind of instructed us to turn the reps away or come up with something. But once in a while, they'd catch them, in between patients or whatever. And, so they get a hold of the doctors and, they're incentivized. The FDA approves them. Are you going to tell me, honestly, the FDA didn't know that these were indeed opioid drugs? They were indeed highly addictive, that 8 tablets a day of anything is absolutely ridiculous. So, but the primary thing that I knew was the benzodiazepine. I know about withdrawal. Everybody I've talked to, and everything that I've learned from Dr. Yosef and my own description, even at the very beginning, never mind when you're well into it, is torture. And everyone says that that's not an adequate word. That's just the word that they can think of to come up with how that feels. So I knew I wanted to deal with that, before I worry about the tramadol. My tolerance, of course, is astronomical after 30 years. But I am down to 2 milligrams at bedtime. Don't think about it. Don't miss it. Because if you knock that tolerance down, let's say, if I went a few days and I didn't take it, and then I did, I might feel it. And that is exactly the opposite of what I want. It's why these withdrawals are when these doctors screw up and, the weekend's coming, or worse, like a holiday, and they haven't called it in, and there's miscommunication between either the pharmacist is lying or the doctors are lying. I can't wait to be free. And I saw a glimpse of that freedom. I talked to my husband this morning, and he confessed that, yes, he was angry, and said that's why he thought I had this normal energy. I came in, I needed dinner, I wanted to play a board game, spend some time with my husband, walk my dog, and go to bed, even though it was 8:30, 9 o'clock. And that's been my routine as early as possible, even in the summer. In the winter, I thought it was kind of justified. It's dark out at 5 o'clock, and that has been slowly changing. I just don't think my husband's actually seen it. And even this morning, I think we were both almost in tears at the idea that what's not normal is to come in being in otherwise excellent health and, putting in 4 hours of work, not strenuous work, and just kind of collapsing and, just want to get walking the dog over with for his last walk of the night. And that's it. Get my t-shirt on, turn on YouTube, check out my stats, and just veg. And that's not the case anymore. I've always thought I'm not a morning person, and I'm really not. And, give me some time. Let me get a cup of coffee in me. But I'm talking hours. My son lives an hour away, and before he had a car, he would ask me, to take him to the orthodontist or something. He's 24, and he didn't have a car. and I'm an hour away. So if he had, like, let's say an 11 o'clock appointment, I would get up at 6 a.m. I had to be at his house by 10 to give us an hour to go where the orthodontist was. And so I would have to get up at 6. I can't just like wake up and hit the floor and run. So I got up and I gave myself all that time, you know, and then I would get easily overwhelmed with the driving and you know, it's a whole day. An hour there, then an hour to the orthodontist, an hour back home to drop him off, and then an hour to come home. You know, it was stressful, but for some people and my physical health, you know, so what? It's stressful. Okay. So we figured that out, and I burst into tears last night. I was upset that he was upset, but then I realized these tears felt so good that it was okay. It's not a friggin' diagnosis. I was crying first because I was sad, and then because I was so happy that I was crying. You know, Dr. Yosef, and I've known this, he has a video called "Don't Ever Tell Your Psychiatrist You're Depressed," and we made a commitment in the house today. We are no longer going to use the word depressed. And we both notice how we have not heard people say the word sad. And I don't know when the last time I've heard it. You know, I'm feeling sad or is very saddened by. People have replaced the word sad with depressed. They have replaced the words nervous or stressed out with anxiety. You go in front of any doctor and use those words, your sadness is then major depressive disorder. Your stress or your nervousness is acute anxiety disorder. Your overactivity, or maybe just having, because you're stressed, you're having a bit of a hard time focusing, or you're a little bit scattered. We all have those days. Well, you know, that's probably ADD. If you experience all of those feelings in one day, where you're kind of stressed and then it's resolved and you're in a good mood and you're feeling all right, gosh, you're bipolar. That's exactly how it works. We've eradicated every human emotion and labeled it a mental illness. And if you say that in front of a doctor, they jump on the chance to load you up with these powerful neurochemicals that do indeed change the brain chemistry. They have known for years. They knew when they released it. It's garbage. So I got through this without crying. And if I do afterwards, or if my attorney says it's not good for the soup, because it's not just a change. This is something that I've been praying for in earnest. In other words, it's not just this passing, oh, by the way, God, you know, along with all the other things, you know, if you can heal my brain. But we've also been praying together. You know, we've always kind of, you know, we started doing that, and we always went to church together. And then after COVID, we just got really lazy about it. I don't believe you have to be in a physical building, but I do believe it's very edifying to have that fellowship with people. So we've been praying together, you know, just general prayers for our health, so we are better able to serve the people in our lives and our children and our loved ones, you know, for our basic needs, even though, you know, we know God will always provide those, you know, like to acknowledge them and give thanks for it. So that spiritual aspect is the first part of our lives. Our love and our dependency, our trust and our faith is on God first. And then as a wife, he is the head of this household, and he comes second. And than our gorgeous, perfect, wonderful children. And they really are. Just very, very blessed. I struggle with my own two boys, but their life was much, much different than my stepson's. You know, they had to grow up with a mother who was loaded up on 7 different SSRIs, who never had the diagnoses they gave to begin with. I'm 62 years old. I'm just coming around to this information. So it cost my mid to late 30s, 40s, 50s, and it was somewhere around my mid to late 50s I began to educate and advocate for myself, and now I'm doing it for others. It's been 7 years of a steady taper with no interruptions and no problems until this last psychiatrist. So, Dr. Warner, you deserve everything that's coming to you. I don't care about your credentials. You have no ethics. You certainly have no compassion or caring about your patients. Number one, because you're overloaded. You know, I was told they see hundreds and hundreds of patients a day. They have 2 offices, and according to the website, only 6 providers. And then they went and launched a new office. They can't even handle what they have. Be that as that may, if this whole experience hadn't happened, the one that led me to, you know, just call a very major, major law firm. I had called years ago about something else, and I could tell right away, you know, there was no case. They don't necessarily come right out and say that. What they'll do is try to refer you to an attorney in your area that's not on a contingency. But when I told them everything that happened, and they jumped on it, and they immediately connected me to their partnering attorney in my area, and they had me in the office. They had me request my medical records because they have not been served yet. So the HIPAA law, pin this, the HIPAA law requires, if you request your own medical records, they have to, under HIPAA, they have 30 days to get them to you, period. But I am sure you've heard this too. Every doctor I have ever asked, including Dr. Warner's office at Neuropsychiatric Clinic, Villa Rica in Dallas, Georgia, that I have asked for my records. One night in anger, he just said, they'll be on the desk Monday, because I told them I was coming in to pick them up. And then they changed their story. Oh, that's my change. They have to provide them within 30 days. That is the law. But they will tell you every single time I've asked, even other doctors, for my records, we're not allowed to release them. We have to release them to your new doctor. Well, you don't even have a new doctor. It's a lie. And obviously, I mean, an educated guess would be they don't want to release them to you because, first of all, they are going to be inaccurate. And my best guess now is that they had the audacity to, again, just give me a runaround. Well, let me look into that. You know, is there a charge for the copies? I will figure all that out. Fred, he told me his name was Fred, a man from his office, was going to call me back that same day. Get all that information as to when they could get those out to me. And of course he didn't. And then I call back. This was all recorded. And, you know, it was the same old run around. Let me put you on hold. Let me look into that. And then they disconnected it. And then I'd call back and it went, you know, directly into some voicemail or whatever. But anyway, yeah, he refused the records. So, you know, obviously they need some time to tamper with them, try to correct them. But the most important ones are all screenshotted and recorded on my end. You know, the new iPhones did an update, upper left-hand corner, hit record. But yeah, I just wanted to share that because I'm coming back. I'm coming back sooner than I thought. I mean, I haven't tapered down. I've been very stable at this dose, and I'm starting to remember how I felt before these drugs ever came into my life, and I just felt like a human being. I had days of ecstasy and joy and days of heartbreak. I had days of just you know. I had good days, I had bad days. I had times I was angry, times I felt loving, times I felt trusting, times I felt leery. I was just living the human experience. And I have been much number than I would have believed or thought. And that's all changing. I welcome tears. I welcome tears today. You know, I think that not being able to cry thing kind of goes back to childhood. I'm not saying I never have, but it's been a long, long time, and I don't cry if I compare myself to others that do cry, you know, just appropriately. I hadn't done it until last night. And I just realized it was an outpouring. It was an answer to a prayer. It was a restoration, a rebirth. And I'm not even talking about that on a religious level. I mean, literally coming back to who I was and coming back to who I was supposed to be. You know, and I hope we all get the opportunity, because we need to kind of rely on each other till medicine catches up. We're not supposed to say, don't listen to your doctors, don't take your doctor's advice. But when it comes to psychiatric medications, we can't trust our doctors, and we can't trust the FDA. You know, did you guys know that all benzodiazepine is supposed to have the black label warning now? That went into federal law via the FDA in 2020. I get them every month, and they've never had a black label or a new kind of warning on them. So there's still just so, it's such a dark, in my opinion, demonic industry. And there is a way out. You know, I started getting fearful for a minute. You know, oh my God, like what if it slips back? But no, you know, it was spiritual, but it was also physiological and neurological, like a healing in that part of the brain that was injured. All right, here comes the hubs. This is our Sunday, so we are going to downtown, where we like to go on Sundays, kind of sit in the nice weather, maybe go to the pool later on. So yeah, welcome back to life, living, and feelings. Hit that subscribe button for me, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow. You have an awesome Sunday. Bye now.